Hey everyone, John here from Big Dreams Travel, and today joined by Lysa once again, and going to talk about her trip to Disney World in Orlando during that coronavirus pandemic that we're all living through and have been in for the last year or so. And this is going to be the last episode, kind of in this series. We had an episode where she talked about the resort you stayed in, Lysa. That was Art of Animation.
Yep.
We've had a great episode on your family's first visit to Galaxy's Edge, and excited to hear about the rest of your trip today. You visited the other three parks as well while you were there, so excited to hear about it.
Awesome.
So stay tuned and hear all about Lisa's visit to Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and Animal Kingdom, and maybe anything else she did while in Orlando in December of 2020. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Make sure that you like and hit the subscribe button for all of our travel content. Lysa and I love sharing about our travels and helping you guys plan yours as well. Today, we're going to visit with Lysa, and this is episode 3 of 3 that we are going to talk about Lisa's trip to Disney World in December. She took all 6 people in her family,
Yep.
and we've talked about her time in Hollywood Studios and Galaxy's Edge in our last episode. But today we're going to kind of just move through the other 3 theme parks at Disney World and talk about Lisa's experiences at those. So Lysa, let's start over at Magic Kingdom and just kind of tell us about your arrival. Again, you guys are coming from Art of Animation. So it was bus transportation to get
Right.
to the Magic Kingdom. And of course, those of us that have been have probably arrived at Magic Kingdom by bus. But is there anything you can kind of shed on the opening process there at Magic Kingdom right now with COVID?
Yeah, so it was very smooth, just like our experience at Hollywood Studios. Um, from the bus stop before you enter the main entrance area where you get your Magic Band scanned, there's white tent set up with healthcare workers, and they grab your temperature really quick. It's very quickly or fast moving. There's really no time to stop. I mean, they grab it and you keep on walking. And again, you walk through the metal detectors and then beep your Magic Band and then you're in. So, I mean, the lines were not long. You know, there's all that congestion for bag check and all the long lines of getting your tickets, your Magic Band scanned. But it was a very smooth process. Again, we went just a little bit before the posted opening time. We went about 30 minutes ahead of time.
Okay.
And it was great. There was a big welcome show up on the train station with Mickey and Minnie and all their friends are singing and waving. And
So
we're
when
ready to start the day.
when you entered Magic Kingdom, were rides already running like they
Yes,
do at Hollywood Studios?
a few of them were.
Okay.
So we went straight to Space Mountain.
Okay.
Hindsight, we should have gone to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train because that was still the longest line all day long consistently. At one point, it made it up to 75 minutes. But we opted for Space Mountain and we rode it twice before we headed anywhere else. So the lines were short enough that, you know, we got off and went right back on before 10 o'clock or before 9 o'clock. I think that was when it opened. So
Right. Yeah, I think we've kind of seen the ride times at a lot of these rides in these parks. Some of the rides that maybe had shorter lines before COVID have a little longer lines just because those are the rides that are maybe slower loaders, but they can't just, things like boat rides, they can't just fill just fill the boats up with people anymore.
Right.
And so they're slow loaders and you're not putting as many people on. Whereas rides like a Space Mountain, we've kind of seen that line maybe be less than it would normally.
Right.
Just because a roller coaster like that, you can still load the cars pretty quickly.
Right.
You can put a party in the front one and a party in the back one, or however that is. And so it's become interesting. Of course, no fast passes right now. So you guys headed to Space Mountain and did some of that. I assume you headed over and did the other mountains at some point during the day. But what else?
Absolutely. Yes,
what
we
else?
did not do Splash, but we did Big Thunder and of course, we did Pirates and Buzz Lightyear and all of everybody's favorites.
Right.
I don't think we did anything in Fantasyland. You know, like I said, my kids are a little older and they like to ride their favorites over and over. And so basically that's what we did. The day we were there, the park closed at 8.
Okay.
So we were there until just about 8 o'clock. We had a dinner at Whispering Canyon at 8:30, and they were not going to be late for that. So there was no getting on a ride right at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So we had to leave right, just before there.
Sure. So while you were did you experience anything else in the park other than those attractions, any of the cavalcades or anything?
Yes, the cavalcades were wonderful. And actually, I hope they keep those around because, I love the parades, but I didn't always want to park myself and wait for the parade, but these cavalcades, we saw multiple and, some of them, like one was really short. I think it just had one character and they walked past and that was great. But then they had some longer ones, like of the characters in their Christmas, because we were there in December. So they had them in their Christmas outfits. And there may have been, 5 or 6 characters. And so they walk by and they're singing and they're waving and they're going really slow. And, but then it was done. And so you could keep on with your day and you didn't have to, take that huge chunk of time, and the traffic wasn't, blocked for all those hours. And it was great. And I loved it. And it kind of felt like we could even get a little closer to it. I don't know. It was really great. And at one point we were having our pictures taken with a memory maker photographer when they were coming down Main Street and they asked everyone to get out of the way. And so we did. And Merida is my husband's favorite princess, and she was coming behind him. And he's like, "Hey, take a selfie of me and Merida." And the memory maker photographer heard him say that. And so I was taking this picture, but when we got our memory maker pictures, he had snapped all these great pictures of Merida behind my husband. And so that was a really cool treat. So anyway.
Yeah, I think I've heard a lot of people say, Disney, keep the cavalcades around even after COVID.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, I'm with you on not wanting to wait on the side of the road for a parade forever, and it gets so crowded, and you got to fight people for a spot, and you got to figure out how to get your kids to see, and so
it's hot.
Yeah, what a yeah, these are really a great addition. Hopefully they stay around. Any food thoughts in Magic Kingdom? I know you said you were going to Whispering Canyon. We can talk about that too. I'm always up for talking about Whispering Canyon. It's
oh my goodness, it was so good. I had my 16-year-old ate 21 ribs. 21.
Wow.
He wanted to go for 25, but we had lunch at Pecos Bill's Tall Tale Cafe. That was one of our favorites to eat. To eat that while we're there for quick service. And we used the mobile ordering. And in fact, we forgot to make our order before we got there. So we had to make our order, and then we kind of hung out and sat outside the restaurant until we got a text that said, "Your order's ready. You can come in and pick it up." So, but it was great. Lots of food. All of our favorites still on the menu that we always got. And we like that place because it seems to fill up our children a little bit more. For not as much money, and we could buy like multiple plates of tacos or fajitas or whatever, and extras, chips and queso or whatever, and they can just eat and eat and eat. So that's where we had our lunch that day. And of course we had Dole Whip and Mickey pretzels, and it was all good.
Okay. So. And you had dinner at Whispering Canyon that night, so that was made it even better. Tell me, so let's move over to Epcot. You guys were at Art of Animation. We talked in our Art of Animation video. You took the Skyliner over to Epcot. You said that was an easy way to get to Epcot. You took bus transportation to Hollywood Studios.
Right.
But the Skyliner got you to Epcot, so you entered through the International Gateway.
Yes.
Did you guys, Epcot's opening at 11 a.m. right now. Was that the case? Were you there at a time they were still doing that?
Yes.
And so.
And it was nice. Gave us a couple hours to recover from our late nights and our crazy travel schedule. So, but yeah, it was great. We got there right about 11. We didn't go early. Like I said, we just kind of took an easy morning that day, but it was great. I'm trying to think. Oh, we went straight to Test Track.
Okay.
And that was, I think, the longest line we waited in was Test Track, and it was closer to an hour than anything else.
Mhm.
Um,
And that is the line that at Epcot has certainly grown. It certainly gets long the fastest
right,
these days. Soren is
right.
pretty, Soren
Soren is
really stays
still
kind of in the
pretty
20,
quick.
30-minute range, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And Frozen Ever After about the same. So yeah, Test Track's definitely the place to head if you're there, super early and there when
Right.
they open and those things.
And much to the sadness of my boys, you cannot design your car.
Hmm.
And so they grumbled and complained once they figured out that they could design their car. I don't even know why we're writing this. I'm like, really? But we still had a great time, and it's such a great ride. We
Do
did
they
miss making our car, but it's so much fun.
do they have any of the interactive things open after the ride? I would assume maybe not all that stuff that you touch and
No,
play
they
with.
just have, I mean, you can just kind of walk by and look at stuff.
Okay.
So,
They still have the Chevrolet cars
yes.
that those
Yep.
people that they're going to try to sell you, but
Right.
you can't go out there and scan your band and all
Right.
that. So so Test Track and you guys did Soarin', I assume.
We did Soren, and of course that was wonderful. And we spent the majority of our day walking around the World Showcase.
Hmm.
That's just always been one of our favorite things, and we started our kids doing that when they were young. So we're not one of the families that skips Epcot because our kids are little and they
Right.
think it's boring. We've made them enjoy it because we enjoy it.
Mhm.
And so they've grown up, and that's still one of their, our 16-year-old said, this is a lot more fun now that I'm a little older and I can remember all the stuff about these countries. So he really enjoyed it. And we ate our way around the world. And,
Did they have the
we were a
holiday?
little disappointed that most of the shops aren't open
Uh-huh.
in all the countries. And so that was kind of sad. But we
Now, did,
still, we
did
loved
they
it.
have? And I know they've trimmed down things a little bit, but were some of the holiday food booths and things? I know they
They
did.
had the holiday food. Yes.
They kind of did
They
a little
had,
bit of a trim down festival of the holidays,
yeah,
but they
but it was
had.
great.
Mhm.
They didn't have all of the, like the Santa Clauses
Right.
in country. They didn't have those. And we missed that probably more than anything, being there at Christmas time, because
Sure.
that's one of our favorites. But they did have the holiday booths, and they had a couple different, like they had a singing group called Joy, I
Uh-huh.
think, that was in the Christmas show place. They were pretty incredible.
Okay.
And I think I sent you some pictures of the gingerbread White House and Capitol building and the
Yep.
recipe that they used to build that. It was rather
Sure.
spectacular. And then they had, of course, the Voices of Liberty. Oh, they were incredible.
Uh-huh.
So there were some of those tried and true things that we're used to seeing at Christmas that were still there. And
Right.
so, and of course, more cavalcades.
Sure.
Or yeah, I think, yeah. So they were great.
Awesome. Well, the other thing I was going to ask about Epcot is, you were talking about the World Showcase there, but Future World has got a lot of construction going on right
Right.
now. Did they seem to have that area, still where you could get around well enough and those types of things? I know they finished parts of it, but the middle section is
Middle
still
section, right?
pretty
It's
much just
still
gone as it was.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get around. It's just kind of, you kind of have to walk out of the way to
Mhm.
get where you want to go.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, everything, all the barriers are up and all that. So I know that since we left, they've opened the fountain up at the front of the park.
Uh-huh.
And so, but that was still encased when we were there.
Right.
But we didn't spend a lot of time in Future World this time. We didn't do Living with the Land, and we didn't go to Nemo and Friends
Mhm.
and spend time in the seas. We pretty much did Test Track and Soren, and then spent the rest of our time in the World Showcase.
Sure.
So
And I'm looking at, kind of looking through some of your pictures. I'll probably put some of them in here. There were inside the World Showplace. Were those some holiday events in there happening? I know you said they had the singers. Did they have other things going on in there?
They had
as
like some
well?
photo ops set up for
Okay.
you. Like Olaf and Sven were in there, not
Okay.
the live
Right.
characters,
Sure.
but statues or cutouts or whatever they were. So
Uh-huh.
they had some photo ops you could take. They had some stores where you could buy some holiday merchandise
Uh-huh.
and food booths, so you could try some different snacks, Christmas snacks. And then they had a few places where you could just take a break and have a snack and sit down. And it was just a really neat area.
Uh-huh.
So we spent some time in there and listened to the singers. It was great. So
Awesome. Awesome. I see you had a pretzel in
yes,
the World Showcase.
always.
Um,
Now my kids had like I said, we kind of ate. We usually do tepanito.
uh-huh.
That's their favorite.
Hmm.
But we decided to enjoy lunch and dinner at all the quick services around the World Showcase. So, um, fish and chips at Yorkshire County
Can't beat
is
it.
a must do every time.
Uh-huh.
So we started there. And then one of my sons and we stopped at La Halles
Hmm.
in France and had the ham and cheese croissant thing. I can't
Yep.
remember the technical name of it, but
Right.
it's one of my favorite. The
Hmm.
fromage,
I think
something
that's right.
maybe. Anyway, oh, so good. Um, then we over in the American experience, we had the American Dream slushy with
Uh-huh.
the raspberry and strawberry Fanta and soft
Uh-huh.
serve, and and a funnel cake.
Uh-huh.
Um, for dinner, the boys and my husband had barbecue from the Regal Eagle Smokehouse.
I was gonna ask when you said America, did you try
Yeah.
the new Regal Eagle?
Yes. And my husband had chicken, but the boys had the burger that
Uh-huh.
has the burger with the barbecue, the pulled pork
Okay.
on it, topped with an onion ring. Well,
Uh-huh.
they pulled their onion ring off, but they said it was the best burger they've ever eaten. And they loved it. So
Uh-huh.
I had my traditional. I go all the way over to Mexico and I get the big order of guacamole and chips.
Hmm.
That was my dinner, but it's my favorite. I have it every time.
Yep.
And of course, we stopped at the Caramel House in Germany and got the
Sure.
salted caramel butter bar and everything else caramel,
Uh-huh.
caramel popcorn, and all the
Yes.
things. I mean,
Sounds like we do a lot of the same things. No, I love all those things. I'm also quite. I like the quick service in Morocco, which I know is not quite as.
yes, and it wasn't open.
And I know, yeah, I was going to say, I think the Morocco Pavilion, the whole thing is pretty. Not a lot going on there. I think
Right,
Spice Road Table did open back up
right, and
not too long ago,
right.
um, but I think a lot of the rest of the Morocco Pavilion is kind of just shut down
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now.
They had one shop open, but the the platter that I like to get at the Tangerine Cafe
Uh-huh.
was not available.
Right, right. Yep, we like that one as well. So, anything else at Epcot? I think it's a little bit of a different experience right now, just
Right?
because it's opening later.
Hmm.
It's open later than any other park.
Right,
Currently the normal schedule. Um, Future World's got a lot of construction.
right.
Anything else about Epcot that we kind of didn't hit on?
Uh, I don't think so. It was
Okay.
a great. I mean, we enjoyed it. It was a great time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it always is for us, though.
Yeah,
So,
good to hear. So let's kind of go over to our last park that we haven't talked about on any of these
okay.
episodes yet. And I know you didn't spend a lot of time here, but you spent some time at Animal Kingdom.
Right.
And for me, we've kind of been looking into what we're going to do this summer and those types of things. Um, we're excited that Festival of the Lion King, they just announced it would be
Yes.
reopening.
So
I'm not
excited.
100% sure if it'll be back this summer because I think they're having to modify the show some
Right.
based on COVID and those kind of things. But that really, without the shows at Animal Kingdom, it really is a park that you kind of wonder, can you fill a full day?
Right.
And I know you guys spent some time there. So what did you think of Animal Kingdom?
Well, we had a great time. We were hoping those park hoppers were coming back
Hmm.
in 2020,
Uh-huh.
and they didn't. Um, so glad they're back now.
Uh-huh.
But we went back and forth with the idea of like, do we want to spend that extra money on that fourth ticket just to go for a couple of hours? But like we talked about before with our family and everyone's schedule and school and real jobs and real life and all that stuff, we just didn't know when all of us would get back. So we decided to go ahead and do it. And we arrived around 2:30 and the park closed at 5. So we had just 2.5 hours.
Uh-huh.
And we did Flight of Passage and the Navi River, and then we did Expedition Everest either 2 or 3 times. I can't remember.
Okay.
So that's pretty much what they wanted to do.
Right.
We love the safaris and we love dinosaur and but they wanted to for sure do this stuff in Pandora because they hadn't seen it yet.
Sure. Okay.
And so it was really great. I mean, it was enough time. It was perfect timing. So
Sure.
in that 2.5 hours, we did exactly what we wanted to do. And,
Mhm.
we did miss Festival of the Lion King and we missed doing
Sure.
the safari and we never do the rapids because we hate getting wet. But so it was great.
Okay.
And if we had had our park hoppers, we know it would have been absolutely just perfect. We could have hopped back and forth, just done those rides
Sure.
and been done. But I I think especially now, I'm glad the park hoppers are back because unless you have little ones who really like to explore and spend that time playing and taking the trails and studying the animals, um, for us, we probably wouldn't have spent more than a half a day. And we usually will spend a whole day. We love it
Right.
there. But
Right.
right now, there's just
Yeah.
not enough for us.
Excellent. Well, and I think like we've kind of talked about in the other parks, I think the Animal Kingdom we've really seen maybe have the shortest lines of any of the parks.
Yeah.
Flight of Passage is very doable. Like you arrived at 2:30 in the afternoon,
Right. And
and
we were in line for 30 minutes.
okay, yeah,
Yep.
and we all remember the days of 240-minute waits for Flight
Yes.
of Passage, and so certainly things are doable quickly
Yeah.
there at Animal Kingdom. So anything we've kind of talked about those other 3 parks. Anything any other like dining experiences or things that you did around while you were there that we haven't made? I know we hit on Whispering Canyon was kind of outside of the park, but anything else that
Right.
we missed?
Well, one thing we did at Hollywood Studios and that I've kind of encouraged my clients right now who are going, um, we did an after park closing dinner
Okay.
at Hollywood Studios because we didn't want to take our time eating.
Sure.
Again, we were there for a short trip, so
Yep.
we didn't want to sit down for an hour and a half and eat.
Hmm.
And so we did 50's Primetime Diner,
Okay.
and the park closed at 7. We had a 7:45
Okay.
reservation, so that's perfect. So we took our time. We hit one ride. I think we've got back on, Rock and Roller Coaster or something again right at 7, and so we rode that, and then mingled in some shops, made some purchases, and then headed over for dinner.
Mhm.
The only thing with that is we missed the Skyliner by like 5 minutes to go home. So they had just closed.
Okay.
So we took a bus home,
Okay.
but it wasn't a big deal. But the Skyliner, so it stayed open an hour and a half after closing, but we
Okay.
missed it by about 5 minutes.
Okay.
So we took the bus home.
And
Um,
they're going to run some form of transportation to get people
yeah,
like that
yeah,
home.
yeah,
But they may, yeah, you may encounter where one of if you've got a resort like Art of Animation that
right.
has multiple modes of transportation, one of them may close.
So it was fun though, being the only ones,
Sure.
right, walking out of the park. I took
Yeah.
pictures of the kids with their lightsabers and all that stuff. So
Uh-huh.
it was great. And then, since Animal Kingdom closed at 5 the day we arrived,
Sure.
we headed over to Disney Springs for the evening
Okay.
and we ate at Chicken Guy. And that was
Okay.
some really good chicken.
Uh-huh.
I mean, super good. I'm an Earl of Sandwich girl. I always eat at Earl.
We
And
are too.
the boys thought they wanted polite pig,
Uh-huh.
but we kind of liked the looks of the menu at Chicken Guy. Plus, the line wasn't very long, and so we hopped in there, and it was really, really good. We all really enjoyed the chicken there. So I have a feeling we'll probably be back.
We're kind of talking about going there. We're going down over spring break to Universal
Oh,
and
nice.
looking maybe at stopping at Disney Springs and having a chicken guy meal.
Oh, so
Maybe
good.
on our way to Universal, we'll have a rental car on that trip, and so looking into that. But of course, like you said, we love Earl of Sandwich, and that's so
Yeah.
hard to beat.
I know.
I think it was our first meal ever on our first Disney trip,
Yep.
10 years ago,
Yep.
and on our arrival day, and so it's kind of nostalgic too. Earl of
Right.
Sandwich is the place at Disney
The
Springs,
place.
and
Yep.
Disney Springs has changed so much,
Right.
over the last 10 years, and
Right.
and we on our last trip we found Deluxe Burger, and
Hmm.
speaking of good burgers, that's maybe our favorite ever, on Disney property, and so
Yeah.
that's there's and Polite Pig you mentioned. There's a lot of great quick service
Right.
options that are newer at Disney Springs too. So
That's
that's good
great.
to hear. Anything else Disney Springs wise that we? I know you guys had a good meal there. Did you,
We
did
did
you
had
do
a
some
great
shopping,
meal.
or was that your
We did
travel
a
day?
little bit. We did a little bit of shopping. It was, again, it was Christmas time, so it was
Uh huh.
wonderful. And they were making it snow kind of right there in the town center as you
Hmm.
walk with in front of the big Christmas tree.
Hmm.
So that was kind of fun. And a lot of the stores, though, they have their capacity limitations, so they're only letting a few
Hmm.
people in at a time. And we didn't even get into World of Disney that night because the line was so long to get into the store. We're like, you got to be kidding me. So we did not stay to shop at World of Disney, and we ended up going back one night. I think after Epcot closed, we headed back over to grab a few things. But the line that night was insane to get into World of Disney, so we bypassed that altogether.
Yeah.
Um, but it was decorated so beautifully as always,
Hmm.
and you know, just it was. We did a little bit of shopping. Of course, the boys went back into some Star Wars stores and went to Goofy's Candy Company and bought a Rice Krispie treat,
Hmm.
and some of the usual things that we do, and so it was a good time.
Sure. Sure. Well, it sounds like everything together. You guys had a great trip. It sounds like it was a
Yeah.
fast paced
Hmm.
trip, and I know you did a lot in just a few days, and trying to work around kids' school schedules and all that. I think that's, but it sounded like everything came together,
It's great.
and we've got three different episodes of all this great stuff you're able to do. So, um, thank you for sharing that with us. I think we have a lot of people that will enjoy
Yeah.
having hearing about not only how things are going during COVID, but I think a lot of what we've talked about is just kind of general Disney stuff. Your
Right.
review of Art of Animation. You had a great stay there,
Hmm.
and then all of this park stuff. So it sounds fantastic. Thanks for sharing it with us here.
All right.
So that's going to do it. We've got three whole episodes about Lisa's trip, and this was number three. And so we thank her for sharing that. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for being with us. Keep dreaming of future travels. We'll see you next time.